have reconvened from closed session, and I would like to make the following announcement. By a 4-0 with Councilmember Suen absent vote, the City Council authorized and directed the City Attorney's Office to defend the case of Flock versus City of Elk Grove and all, as identified by the case number on the City Council meeting agenda. With that, we will adjourn the special meeting at 6:01 p.m. And that brings us to our regular meeting. At this time, I will call to order the Elk Grove City Council regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, March the 12th, 2025, and it is 6:01 p.m. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council is recorded with closed captioning. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast and DirecTV Uverse cable systems. The recording will also be video streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Tonight's meeting replays will be on Friday, March 14th at 1 p.m. and Wednesday, March 19th at 9 a.m. on Metro Channel 14. Once posted, the recordings of this and previous meetings can be viewed on demand at the 3ws.elkgrovecity.org or youtube.com/metrocable14. For members of the participating audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting or on mute when you are not speaking. The Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular notice agenda item as it may deem necessary. Pursuant to Resolution Number 2010-24, no individual speaker concerning public comment may address the City Council for more than 3 minutes. If you wish to address the Council during the meeting, please complete a blue speaker card, which can be found at the back of the chamber, and provide it to Assistant City Clerk Brenda Haggard prior to consideration of the agenda item. With that, Mayor, I will be moving into the roll call. And for the roll call, I will be starting with Councilmember Spies.
Present.
Councilmember Brewer.
Present.
I will note that Councilmember Suen is absent. Vice Mayor Robles.
Present.
And Mayor Singh Allen.
Here. Thank you. Next up is our land acknowledgement. Would the Vice Mayor please read the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We honor, respect, and acknowledge the Elk Grove First Inhabitants, the Plain Miwoks, who lived as the sovereign caretakers of this land, these waterways, since time immemorial. We commemorate and advocate for their descendants, the Wilton Rancheria, the only federalized recognized tribe in Sacramento County, who endure because of the bravery, resiliency, and determination, their ancestors, tribal members, and leaders.
All right, thank you. Next up is our Pledge of Allegiance. Would Councilmember Brewer please help lead us this evening?
Everyone please rise if you are able. Hand over your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up is our moment of silence. Please join us as we observe our moment of silence. All right, thank you. And next up is our approval of the agenda. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item.
Under Section 3 for our closed session, there are no closed session items on the regular agenda, which will take us to Section 4, our presentations and announcements. That first being item 4.1, a proclamation recognizing March as Women's History Month.
All right. Well, it is my great pleasure to recognize an extraordinary Elk Grove resident. So I'm going to read the covenants here. It's a proclamation observing Women's History Month, March 2025. Whereas March was officially designated as Women's History Month in 1987, and the purpose of Women's History Month is to honor and celebrate the contributions of women throughout history. I'm going to pause for a second. I meant to call up Secretary Amy Tong to the podium, and I'll continue reading. Thank you. Whereas this year's theme, Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations, celebrates the powerful influence of women who have dedicated their lives to education, mentorship, and leadership. And whereas Amy Tong, a distinguished public servant and leader, exemplifies the spirit of Women's History Month through her dedication and commitment to serving the people of California and the city of Elk Grove. And whereas Amy Tong's commitment to the community includes her service on the City of Elk Grove's Planning Commission, where her foresight and hard work supported the foundation for the city's present growth and prosperity. And whereas Secretary Tong has achieved extraordinary success currently serving as the Secretary of Government Operations for the state of California, overseeing an agency with over 22,000 employees and a $67 billion annual budget, demonstrating exceptional leadership and management skills. And whereas Amy Tong's influence extends to critical areas such as workforce development, technology and innovation, infrastructure projects, and the implementation of generative AI in state government, showcasing her forward-thinking approach and commitment to progress. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby proclaims March 2025 is Women's History Month in the City of Elk Grove and proudly honors Amy Tong for her outstanding contributions to our community and the state of California. We celebrate her achievements, leadership, and unwavering commitment to public service and express our sincere gratitude for her service and the lasting impact on the City of Elk Grove. Signed this day, the 12th of March, 2025. Please recognize Secretary Amy Tong. Would you like to say something?
Yes, very briefly. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for the recognition, mayors and all the council and some of my former planning commission. Good to see you, Kevin. I just say I am so honored and humbled by this recognition. And as I was driving home from, leaving work at office at downtown, I was like, hey, what I'm going to say tonight, because I know this is a great honor. It doesn't come very often, even though you might be thinking for all of the work that I do at the state. There were many other recognitions in different form, but coming from a city that I have spent the past 30 years in, being the resident, married my husband, who's in the audience, in the city, as well as brought up our two children, now have all gone and, somewhere else in California. It's a special place for me. And this is also the place that my parents brought me to when I was a teenager. And this is also the place that I buried my mom when she unfortunately lost her battle to cancer. So having this recognition from a place that we call home, despite all of the work and everything else that we have to do, especially in my role now as a cabinet secretary to serve the governor in the administration to serve California, I've always enjoyed my time here, raising my family, doing community service, meeting all of the good people, including Christopher back then, still back in 2016. So I guess I just couldn't express how grateful I am. And thank you to your leadership, this council's leadership, and all of the wonderful leaders in the city of Elk Grove for making this place a great place to live.
Thank you. Congratulations once again. We're going to come down.
Congratulations. Congratulations. So there's like three planning commissioners. Three planning commissioners here.
This is for you.
You want to try this?
You should come in here.
Oh, you didn't know.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. All right.
Thank you. Congratulations
Thank you so
again.
much.
How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. You remember those? Yeah. I forget that you were planning. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Now we do a handshake.
Now we do handshake, yeah. That's right.
Can we give another round of applause to Secretary Amy Tong, please? Thank you. All right, next up, we have public comment. We will start with, Ray Apodaca, followed by Max Quan Tran.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ray Apodaca, and I'm the owner of 9635 Elk Grove, Florin Road, home to Annie Pioni Fine Art Gallery. Our gallery is committed to enriching Elk Grove's cultural and economic landscape by supporting local artists and small businesses that bring vibrancy to our city. I'm here to support Bing Bing Shave Ice and Coffee in the request for a permit or entitlement to operate at my property beyond the current 3-hour limit stated in the Municipal Code Section 2385050. As a business owner, I seek tenants who align with the city's vision for growth and community engagement. Maximilian and Jacqueline's business does just that. Their setup is safe, clean, and professionally run. They comply with all health and safety regulations, and their presence has not caused any issues with traffic, noise, or neighboring businesses. The current 3-hour restriction makes it nearly impossible for them to operate effectively, despite having legitimate lease and the full support of both myself and neighboring businesses. As Elk Grove continues to invest in economic development and community-focused businesses, I urge the council to consider granting them the ability to operate longer so they can continue serving and contributing to our city. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next up is Max Quan Tran.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Max Quan Tran. I'm the co-owner of the Bing Bing Shave Ice and Coffee food truck. I want to start by saying that we truly enjoy operating here in Elk Grove. We've been here since January, and we're very grateful for the warm welcome from the community. We want to thank everyone that helped us get set up here and get our business license. As Mr. Apodaca mentioned, despite being fully licensed and insured, we are still subject to the 3-hour operating time limit in Section 2385050 of the Municipal Code. As I'm sure you can imagine, constantly relocating disrupts our business, wastes precious time, and creates unnecessary costs, especially with the cost of gas and utilities, and it also confuses our customers being at a different location all the time. So I'm asking for the council to please consider amending this section of the municipal code. After extensive consultation with the Planning and Economic Development Departments, thank you to Tisha Manscott and thank you to Joseph Daguman, I've decided that in my specific situation, the best solution is to forego being a mobile vendor and open up a physical storefront. And although I'm very fortunate to have the means and the opportunity to do so, I recognize that not everyone else may have this opportunity. So I'm here speaking not just for myself, but for on behalf of all other mobile food vendors that wish to operate in your city. I think given that someone is properly licensed and insured and handling food safely, there should be no time limit on how long any food business should be able to operate. I think if we want to encourage innovation, local investment, we need policies that support and not hinder these businesses. These businesses create jobs, foster entrepreneurship, and contribute to Elk Grove's growing reputation as a business-friendly community. So I ask that you please consider adding this issue to your official agenda, as it affects not just me right now, but all those families and small businesses in the future that want to contribute to your local economy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Could you please get a hold of me? My email and cell is on the website. I'd like to continue this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up is Jacqueline Canoose.
Since prior to 2016, I have been in communication with our city and utility companies regarding their damaged utility boxes, pipes, and flags. Photos previously provided validate the dangerous and unsightly equipment. In the boxes, there are exposed wires, knobs, and switches, leaves, and trash. Some are used as storage bins. The flags left behind are sharp and become rusty as the ones that I brought here tonight. They get caught in lawnmowers and rakes. The photos of the uncut grass are due to the flags obstructing the job. They scratch and trip people, bikes, and strollers. Who is responsible for overseeing these infractions of code enforcement policies? Is there a tickler system keeping track of jobs and cleanup within 30 days of completion? Brian Vraggio, Engineering Service Manager, on May 15th, 2017, sent me an email stating in part, standard practice is to remove the utility flags by the construction crew after the project is completed. On August 4th, 2022, I wrote letters to all utility companies and the city to walk with me around Laguna and Bighorn to review the condition of their equipment. On August 12th, 2022, Joe Dixon, supervisor at SMUD, attended. Jeff Werner, Public Works Director, sent 2 staff members. Mr. Dixon followed through with repairs and/or replacements within the month. The low number of repairs made by other companies has been acknowledged. Who is responsible for cleaning up damages, both vehicle and property, after a wreck? The owner? A light pole was damaged at Laguna and Laguna Springs, reported to the city on June 19, 2024. Another wreck at Iris and Arnie Zimbelman Park was reported to See Click Fix on October 1st, 2024. I cleaned up what I could. The trash was full. Therefore, I left some of the debris beside the can. It was not picked up, but the can was emptied. A vehicle door was left at the corner of Bighorn and Laguna for weeks. I have reported it, but as of March 11, 2025, it was still there. The See Click Fix program may transfer an issue. However, I do not hear back from them. Lastly, do Elk Grove citizens speak to the city council meetings only to vent? Are my questions and concerns reviewed or delegated out, or was nothing done? Expressing respect to follow through and apprising citizens of the speaker's time and effort would benefit us all. Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. And that concludes our public comment. I will go ahead and close the public comment and go on to our next item, which is our city manager's report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Jason Behrmann, happy to report on a few items for you this evening. First of all, our economic development staff is in the process of doing a local business survey. We've sent out a lot of invitations to participate in the survey, but if any business would like to receive that, has not already received that, they can email our economic development team at econdev@elkgrovecity.org. Surveys are expected to be completed by March 19th. We are starting our annual civic summer program application period. It's open now and it will close on March 28th. So if you know a student here locally in Elk Grove that would like to participate and get great career and mentorship opportunities through that program, we'd encourage them to apply at our Elk Grove Unified School District website, egusd.net, by March 28th. We also have 2 openings right now on one commission, one committee. We have an opening at our Diversity Inclusion Commission, and we have another opening on our Historic Preservation Committee. Application for either committee or commissions are due on no later than April 2nd. And the final item is discover the world of green stormwater infrastructure with Rescape expert Brian Rowley on Saturday, April 5th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Elk Grove Rain Garden Plaza. which is close to here at 9385 Laguna Springs Drive. During the guided tour, Brian will share his expertise and insight into how green stormwater infrastructure works and its importance in regenerative landscaping. Bring your questions, bag lunch, as we explore the innovative approach to managing stormwater. Interested individuals can register for this event on the Rescape website at www.rescapeca.org. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for our city manager? I see one here from Councilmember Brewer.
So with the openings for the Diversity and Inclusion Commission and the Historic Preservation Committee, will those notices go out publicly and on social media so the public is aware of these openings so they could apply by April 2nd?
So I'll field that one, Councilmember Brewer. So for the recruitment, what's occurred is the vacancies are posted on our website. We have the constant contact system that pushes that out to interested parties that are signed up for information on vacancy appointments, as well as those that have signed up on the Historic Preservation Committee for updates and the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. And then the city clerk staff will be coordinating with pushing out on social media as we get closer to those deadlines. We let it stew a little bit for folks to consider their applications. And then as we get closer, we look at how many are coming in, but there will be a push out on social media as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. No other questions. We'll move on to our next item, our consent calendar items. At this time, I will go ahead and open up the public comment opportunity. I do not have anyone sign up for consent calendar. I'll close the public comment opportunity and look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next item, 8.1.
And item 8.1 is a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Elk Grove Municipal Code in various sections to exempt designated outdoor areas from certain city development impact fees, and to consider a resolution authorizing execution of refund agreements and issue refunds related to certain city development impact fees paid on designated outdoor areas.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I am Renee Dageman, Finance Analyst for the city. I'm here this evening with a presentation on outdoor area impact fees and Elk Grove Municipal Code updates relating to them. We'll be going over the background on development impact fees, policy change, EGMC updates, refunds and fiscal impact, and then staff recommendations. So a little bit of background on development impact fees and the city's current practice. Development impact fees are one-time fees that are charged on new residential and non-residential projects and projects that are adding additional square footage to their building. Impact fees mitigate the impact of new development. The more residents and visitors you have in the city, the more road improvements, parks, and city facilities are needed. Development impact fees are also charged on any outdoor dining area associated with the non-residential business whose primary purpose is the serving of food or beverages to customers related to a restaurant, brewery, or winery, or similar type of establishment. Development impact fees charged for outdoor dining areas are a financial burden for many prospective restaurants, breweries, and wineries that the city is trying to attract. These fees are often paid by the business owner, not the property owner. This has resulted in several desirable businesses not locating and opening in Elk Grove, and others not being able to execute expansion plans. In addition, several existing businesses that inherited unpermitted outdoor dining areas on which development impact fees were never paid, or who built outdoor dining areas without knowing about the development impact fees, are now being charged the fees, causing a financial constraint and hindering their ability to complete their entitlement and permitting process. So staff reached out to 12 local jurisdictions in the region to identify whether they charge impact fees on outdoor dining areas. 7 of them do not charge. 3 of them charge a lower percentage of the maximum development impact fee, and 2 of them do charge 100% of the fee. To meet the city's goals of attracting and supporting local restaurants, breweries, and wineries, staff recommends that the City Council consider exempting the square footage of outdoor dining areas only, not the building, from certain development impact fees. These changes would only apply to or affect the city's development impact fees, not impact fees collected on behalf of other agencies such as CSD or STA's fees. The city would continue to charge impact fees on outdoor dining areas for those agencies unless they inform us otherwise. I want to note that business owners will still need to go through their entitlement and permitting process. It's just that the city's impact fees would be exempt on their outdoor dining area. And as the nexus studies for each of the affected development impact fee programs is updated in the coming years, staff will include the exemption regarding those outdoor dining areas. To implement this policy change, the following chapters of the Elk Grove Municipal Code will need to be amended to add a new definition of designated outdoor area and add a fee exemption section. That's Chapter 16.81, City of Elk Grove East Franklin Facilities Fee, Chapter 16.82, City of Elk Grove Laguna Ridge Park Fee, which covers the Laguna Ridge Park Fee and Laguna Ridge Supplemental Park Fee, Chapter 16.89, affordable housing fee for new non-residential development, and Chapter 16.9, development impact fees, which covers the city's roadway impact fee program, active transportation, capital facilities fee, SEPA cost recovery fee, SEPA and Laguna Ridge Phase 3 drainage fee, SEPA park and trail fee, and the Southeast Industrial Area cost recovery fee. The additions will be the same for each chapter, which will be adding, again, the definition of designated outdoor area and a fee exemption section. Staff also recommends that the City Council approve refunds for development impact fees included in those chapters mentioned to business owners who paid these development impact fees on the designated outdoor area of their business on or after January 1, 2020, and whose businesses are still operating, and or to property owners who paid these fees for a designated outdoor area on behalf of a tenant on or after that date. We recommend going back to January 1, 2020 because the city began to see increased interest in the types of local elevated dining and drinking establishments with outdoor dining at that time, the COVID pandemic. A number of businesses that opened in the last 5 years reluctantly paid impact fees for those outdoor dining areas. Staff believes that providing refunds is equitable for current and future business owners and property owners, and recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute refund agreements with those businesses and issue refunds equal to the amount of development impact fees that were paid on the designated outdoor area. There will be an impact on the city's development impact fee revenues as designated outdoor areas will be exempt from the fees indicated. However, the number of businesses that have an outdoor dining area dedicated solely to their business and that would be subject to impact fees on the square footage of those areas is low compared to other development projects, since we do collect on residential and all non-residential. Staff has identified a total of 6 businesses that would be due a refund should council approve refunds. The total amount of the refunds would be approximately $156,000 in total. The refunds would be issued and allocated from the revenue fund lines of each of those exempted fee programs. Each of those funds has sufficient revenue to issue the refunds. And this chart just shows the allocation of the refunds by the fee program. Our roadway fee program is by far the largest, and it has one of the higher rates, and so that's about 80% of the refund that would occur. With all of that, staff has the following 2 recommendations. Introduce an ordinance to amend Elk Grove Municipal Code Chapter 16.81, 16.82, 16.89, and 16.95 to exempt designated outdoor areas from certain city development impact fees, and adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute refund agreements and issue refunds relating to certain city development impact fees paid on those areas. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. Staff is available for any questions.
All right, thank you for your presentation. At this time, I will declare the public hearing is now open and open up public comment opportunity. Nobody has signed up to speak on this item. I'll close public comment and declare that the public hearing is now closed. Questions, comments from council? I'll start to the left. Any questions? To the right? Questions? I just have a comment. This is great news. I'm glad that we're doing this. With that, I'll look for a motion 1 and 2.
So moved.
I'll take second then.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, 9.1.
And item 9.1 is to receive and file the Elk Grove Aquatics Center annual report for calendar year 2024.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Jeff Scanlon, and I'm the new Community Center Manager for District 56. I'm very excited to be here tonight and be able to present the 2024 Elk Grove Aquatics Center annual report. Tonight's presentation will begin with Lana Yoshimura, Director of Recreation and Community Services with Kasuna CSD, to discuss the aquatic programming, and followed by myself to discuss the budget and current financials for the facility. So with that, I'll turn over to Lana.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. It is always a pleasure to be before you, although I have to say it's a little bit different being on this side, but I'll make it work. On behalf of the Cosumnes Community Services District, we are very proud to operate the Elk Grove Aquatics Center, commonly known as EGAC. We continue to build programming and create a very fine facility that people are always looking to host meets and attend. Let me see. This is a brief program overview of some of the things that we offer at EGAC. These are the core programs we offer at the facility. This evening, I will be talking about several of them in depth. This is the aquatic programs by the numbers, both participation as well as revenue. Last year, we had a strong performance in revenue. I know this has been a concern of the council in years past. Let me assure you that we continue to keep an eye on the revenue, and it continues to grow in leaps and bounds. Last year, we served almost 50,000 people at our facility just in programs alone. That doesn't count for swim meets and other things such as user groups, which the city manages itself. And I want to highlight a couple of key areas of growth for you. This is water fitness by the numbers, both program hours as well as revenue. Water fitness has always been one of our strongest revenue generators, and we continue to capitalize on that. This past year, we introduced several new classes, including H2O Strength and Aqua HIT, which stands for High Intensity Interval Training. If you are ever looking for a class that will get your heart pumping and into that target heart rate zone, this is the class for you. And it's definitely sold out, and we found a great following with it. We continue to build out our programming, innovating, as well as trying to offer things that are not offering currently in the district. Pool parties, rentals, and concessions is another area of growth. We actually expanded this program to utilize deck space and host pool parties under canopies, which considerably enlarged our ability to host pool parties this past year. We will continue to market the parties as fun, affordable options for people to take advantage of this summer. This is our Aquatic Center staff certifications. Our staff continue to be well-trained to operate a safe and secure facility. A couple of areas that I want to call your attention to are the lifeguard training instructor and the instructor training areas. What this allows us to do is basically train staff to be lifeguards as well as instructors. This is a cost-saving measure that allows us to train staff in-house, as well as to help our staff grow and build skill. This is a key point in retention. Let me talk about some of the accomplishments of EGAC this past year. We want to thank the city staff for its positive working relationship. That relationship really does aid tremendously in our ability to function, as this is a joint effort by our agencies. Some of our highlights include the growth in revenue. We had a 55% growth in revenue over 2023. We've hosted major swim meets, which have brought over 1,000 attendees apiece.
We added winter swim lessons, which have found a following, and so we continue to offer swim lessons in spring, summer, as well as fall/winter. We expanded marketing. Last year, we had the largest staff recruitment in CSD history, which was great. And we have staff retention of about 75 to 80% of seasonal staff, which helps keep our costs down as training and rehiring is low. So the facility does have ongoing challenges. 2024 is a positive story. We saw resident revenue grow. The facility continues to find its footing in a regional sense as more and more people know about it. But aquatic centers are kind of like children. You know, in the beginning, they're happy to play with the box, the toy comes in, and as they get older, it gets more costly. They want iPhones and iPads, and now we're basically raising a Kardashian. These costs are These costs are pretty typical of aquatic centers in the industry. You're going to see operating costs grow due to inflation. Things like the minimum wage, staff increases, those are very hard to compete about and difficult to control. Utility costs are another area of concern just because these are outside of our control. These are things that we are reactive to in the marketplace. These are all normal within the span of operating a facility. In addition, as the facility ages, we're going to see more maintenance costs. That is a natural ebb and flow of a facility. It's an ebb and flow for all of us. As we get older, things happen. So maintenance will continue to be one of those things that we are working to be proactive about, but we will always try to create the facility that is to the standard the city would like. That is part of the challenges. And let's talk about 2025. We have a very exciting year coming up. Our water fitness demos actually start on March 22nd. If you've never been to a demo or you are interested in taking a water fitness class, this is an excellent way to basically try the different classes we offer for free. This is part of our recruitment process to get people in the water. One is at March 22nd. The second will be April 6th. Pre-registration is required, but it does give you a good sampler pattern of what a water fitness class is like. This year, we're hosting 2 CIF level meets, the Delta League Championship and the CIF San Joaquin Championships. We are happy to have local high school swimmers in our pool all the time. Our rec swim opens on Saturday, May 24th, which is Memorial Day weekend, which is typical for us. We are hoping for a strong season. We're continuing to expand swim lessons to maximize the demand for that. This year, we're actually hosting the USA Swim Sierra Nevada Western Zone. This brings swimmers from Utah, Colorado, Washington to our facility. It has been a great highlight for us. This will be the second time that we are hosting the Western Zone. And we are bringing back dive-in movies. Last year, we started with our first one, I think Despicable Me 3, and look forward to bringing back a movie. We did sell out last year, so our hope is that we will sell out again. That is my part of the presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff to continue for you.
All right, as Lana presented, the CSD annual report, which focuses on the calendar year, I will be presenting the fiscal analysis and budget impacts for the fiscal year, starting with fiscal year 2024. For fiscal year 2024, the city budgeted $1,061,000 for operations. This number includes all costs, including landscaping, equipment, chemicals, utilities, and the CSD professional services budget. The budget also includes $240,000 in city revenue from our user groups and facility rentals, which helps partially offset our operating expenses, resulting in a total operations subsidy of $821,000. The slide here represents actual expenses versus the adopted budget for fiscal year 2024. Key budget numbers and takeaways we see from last year are the increased revenue numbers, with both the city and CSD revenues coming in over the original budget, along with the closely managed expenses for budgeted operations throughout the year. We did see some increases in budgeted expenses at year end, with the CSD total net expense seeing a 4% increase. Of that $24,000 increase, approximately half of these were necessary additional expenses that were approved by the city prior to purchase. Overall, there was an 8% increase in final expenses compared to the original budget, approximately $63,000 over the original $821,000 approved subsidy. The increase is primarily due to the increase in both utility and chemical supply costs for the facility. As we know, there are many factors that contribute to both operational and operational revenues and expenses, both positively and negatively, but we are beginning to see the improvement with aligning these expenses to budget projections and improving the financial forecasts for the facility. Moving forward to this year, we are now halfway through the fiscal year with these numbers as of December 31st, and we are seeing a promising and positive trend for the facility. As of this report, both the city and CSD are seeing revenue numbers well above our mid-year projections, with CSD accounting for almost 70% of their annual revenue, and while the city has collected 60% of our user group revenue for the year. On the expense side, CSD is currently sitting at the 50% threshold we'd expect to see for their operating expense, with their total net expense well below that 50% benchmark, mainly due to the increased revenues for the year. Overall, the current total subsidy is just over $275,000 for the year and has a 72% remaining budget for the fiscal year. Again, well ahead of that 50% benchmark we want to see. With that, staff will continue to monitor and track our budget expenses throughout the fiscal year, but our financial forecasts for the Elk Grove Aquatics Center are very promising at this point. With the current financials, we are on track to meet, if not exceed, our budgeted goals for fiscal year 2025. This final slide just touches on the operational baselines and for the facility, and a reminder that in May of 2024, city staff did bring back an updated Aquatics Center annual report to City Council. Mainly the goal of this report was to reset the expectations regarding the total cost of operating the facility in the current economy compared to that when it first opened. As we continue to operate, we remain diligent in tracking and refining our operational baselines and costs for this facility. In doing so, it allows the city and the district to improve our financial forecasts, set more accurate costs and revenue targets, and optimize our facility use and revenue potential. All of which I believe we are beginning to see the successes of in our current financials and facility operations. With that, this concludes my presentation, and Lana or myself are available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that excellent report. At this time, I'll open up public comment. Nobody has signed up to speak. I'll close public comment and questions, comments. I'll start to the right.
Yep. So first, I want to thank CSD and their partnership and for them continuing to help us to make this even, well, it'll never be profitable. We recognize that, right? But to make this neutral, right? Our cost relatively neutral. So thank you very much to CSD. We appreciate you. And Lana, we were really sad to see you go, but we were certainly happy to see that you were going to CSD. And I think that you definitely understand, you know, our perspective in the last couple of years, or at least I'll speak for myself, my perspective. And I definitely appreciate that. Kudos to you for the 55% increase in the revenue. That's you know, there's two sides to the equation. There's expenses and there's revenues. And with the expenses, you know, with the increase in the utilities and in the increase in labor, it's hard to chase that revenue side. I recognize that, but I really appreciate that you're doing that. So I'm glad that as a team we're performing better, and I really appreciate that. And that's all I have. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Brewer.
No, I want to thank you for giving the report. It's really good to see that the progress is being done, because normally you would wait several years before you see real progress being made with the Aquatics Center. But the Aquatics Center has been a community hit from the beginning, and that's always been a great thing to see and know. And to have the partnership with Casumas really crystallizes that we're working together for the community. And I really like the programs that are coming out and our commitment to having swim programs, not just on the youth level, but on the high school level and for the regionals, because that continues the reputation of the Aquatic Center here in Elk Grove, and the reason why it was put together to begin with. And that's a really good thing. One of the things I was looking at in here is I noticed that we're looking at the numbers for the Laguna Ridge discount for the neighbors in here. And I noticed that the numbers were on the low side, and we've done a lot of promotions and advertisements to let the neighbors in the neighborhood know of that benefit, because it's, as we looked at the landscaping and lighting fees and knowing how much are being paid for that neighborhood, and that's a benefit, a direct benefit for them in that respect. What more can we do to make that available or make it known for those neighbors that this is something that is there for them if they were to do a season pass to the Aquatic Center?
I certainly appreciate that question, Councilman Rohr. It's really hard in terms of how to get a horse to drink water, right? You can lead a horse to water, you can't always make it drink. We can always try to increase marketing to the Laguna Ridge residents to let them know that this is an available benefit to their being part of the CFD that's there. We continue to have word of mouth, and sometimes it's just like, it's not a popular program with them. I will tell you from the facility rental side, we do see a lot of facility rentals at the center itself and that Laguna Ridge discount utilized, but it's one of those things where we can only offer the program and hope that they walk through the doors. We will work to increase marketing and spread the word, but certainly appreciate that question.
No, I appreciate you, Lana, because you've seen both sides, and being the administrator at District 56 and now with CSD, and I like that you've picked up some of my rodisms over the years, because that one that you just dropped on us was a nice little nugget. I don't know if I could say that nowadays, but I'm glad someone else is picking up that mantle.
Well, and I will also say, like, the impressive revenue growth, while I would like to take credit for that in the month and a half that I was there, but I just got there. I do give credit to Angela Newman, the recreation manager, who is sitting behind me, and her team for increasing that. They certainly put their nose to the grindstone and made those revenues numbers go up and really thought outside the box on how to do that. So I express my appreciation to the aquatics team for that.
And I give a lot of big thumbs up for Angela for that as well, and for Tracy Ferris in addition, because it's all a big team effort and you're all doing it together, and it's part of that larger partnership. And so I want to thank you all for doing that report.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No questions, just thank you for keeping our program busy, and it's awesome to see that there's a lot of stuff going on and excitement there, so appreciate it.
Great report, meeting and exceeding budgeted goals. That's great. Those are great numbers. Great to see the progress. Welcome home, Lana.
Thank you.
This is still your first home. Great to see that the partnership continue. That's wonderful news. As it relates to marketing, communications, outreach, I would also recommend the school district and getting information to the school sites even directly, not relying solely on the district, but the elementary, middle, and high schools. Great outlets for information for increased users. So thank you. Excellent report. Great to see.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, 9.2.
And that's to receive information from staff and consider a resolution approving names for 5 park sites within the city.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Kara Reddick, Deputy City Manager. I'm here tonight to talk about naming 5 park sites within the city. The 5 sites, Park Site 1 is currently called Sungrove. Park Site 2 is currently called Mendez. There are 2 pocket parks and 1 trailhead in Elliott Springs. There's an existing MOU between the city and the Cosumnes CSD regarding the development of park and recreation facilities, which outlines park naming procedures. The city does have a facility naming policy, which talks about facilities will not normally be named after living persons, and naming of deceased persons shall not take place until 2 years after their deaths. The Cosumnes CSD does not have such a policy, but this policy was utilized in the decision-making process. So how did we get here tonight? So in 2024, from July to December, there was a public nomination process to have names solicited. 9 names were solicited. Of those 9, only 7 met the criteria. Of those 7, some of those were living individuals' names, so then they were also eliminated. The city and the Cosumnes CSD staff then held a brainstorming session to get some additional names to add to that list. The names were reviewed by a joint naming committee, which included 2 representatives from the city and the CSD. Park names were presented to the CSD board on February 19th, and they're being presented to the city council tonight. So I'll go through each park site. So Park Site 1, which is currently called Sungrove Park, is located near White Lock Parkway and Bighorn Boulevard. It is a 1-acre park, and there is no theme. You can see some of the amenities listed here. The recommended name is Coyote Oaks Park. The nominator wanted to honor the animals and plants that were once in this area, and they mentioned hearing coyotes calling each other in the area. They also wish to pay tribute to the indigenous peoples who revered the oak tree, recognizing the cultural significance and connection to the land. So Park Site 2, which is currently called Mendez, is located near Bilby Road and Bighorn Boulevard. This is a much larger park. It's 9 acres. It has a current theme. It is a horse ranch theme, and those are some of the amenities. The recommended name is Mendez Ranch Park. The nominator wanted to honor Joe and Mary Mendez, the immigrants from Portugal who were the original owners and farmers of this property. The name Mendez Ranch Park would recognize the lasting contribution of Joe and Mary Mendez, as well as incorporate the horse theme of the park. The next 2 parks are very small parks. Pocket Park 1 is 0.23 acres. It is on Alfonso Way. This is really close to Cammer and Bilby Road. There are a few amenities here, but the recommended name is Creekside Park. It is adjacent to a creek. Pocket Park 2 is located just a little bit to the east of Pocket Park 1. It is also very small. It is 0.22 acres. And the recommended name is Trailside Park. They wanted to have Creekside Park and Trailside Park complement each other. And the final name, this trailhead is the final park. It's located on the corner of Horvath Street and Still Wagon Street in the Elliott Springs development. And the name is Hitching Post Trailhead. This was recommended by the city and Cosumnes CSD staff brainstorming session. The trailhead connects to a popular trail used for horseback riding and is also very close to a horse ranch and a horse rescue. And so the name Hitching Post Trailhead reflects the local equestrian culture. So the recommended names are Coyote Oaks Park, Mendez Ranch Park, Creekside Park, Trailside Park, and Hitching Post Trailhead. So staff recommends that the City Council receive information from staff and adopt a resolution approving names for 5 park sites within the city. So I remain available to answer any questions. Tracy Ferris, the Parks and Recreation Administrator with the Cosumnes CSD, is also here.
Thank you. Hi, Tracy. All right, at this time, I'll open up public comment. Nobody has signed up to speak to this. I'll close public comment. Any questions or comments from council?
No, but I would be willing to make the motion.
Any questions, comments? Okay. So I was on this subcommittee, and I think, who else was on it with? And our vice mayor. Very exhaustive process. But, you know, you do want to pay tribute to not only the area, the neighborhood, lifestyle, some of those aspects, and then we did sometimes fuse certain ideas together, and so it was it was an exhaustive process. I thought it was a lot of fun to do, and we really recognized each other's comments throughout this process and sort of the vision of what we saw. And you want the name to last beyond the next 5-10 years, that it should stand out for something and mean something for future generations. So great process, so thank you for that. We have a motion from Council Member Spies in a second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Okay.
Oh, it's
I'm just
Kara's
going to
back
stay
up.
right here. Okay, so Kara Reddick, Deputy City Manager. I'm going to be giving you an update on the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts for 2024. I just want to take a minute and talk about the context of what DEI is for the city of Elk Grove and what it isn't. So what it is where we create and maintain a culture of belonging and welcoming. We identify and remove barriers in employment. We relate and thoughtfully interact with our diverse community, and we follow all state and federal employment laws. It is not about hiring or representation, targets, or goals, and it is not about affirmative action. What it is about is, here's a pie demographic of our community. So we have a very diverse community. It's really important that our staff are trained in how to be culturally competent and aware. I'll just kind of highlight a few of the pie charts here. But 31.3% of our residents are Asian, 31.2% are white, 18% are Hispanic, and 10.5% are African American. So we have a very diverse community. So really a main focus of our DEI program is training. We partner with Circle Up Education out of Oakland. We had 291 staff that trained on one of the topics there regarding equity, gender, diversity, and covered. We had 128 sworn staff and 22 non-sworn staff participated in Elk Grove PD training on inclusive communication. So 93.7% of the city organization was trained in a DEI topic in 2024. We've continued with our campaigns, our stickers, our social media, and our magnets. We paid tribute to 14 individuals on social media. We put out 40 posts acknowledging holidays or awareness months, and those 6 ribbons include the 6 signature campaigns that we do every year. The City Council put out 21 council proclamations. I won't list them all, but we had one tonight. We have them at many of our council meetings. We raised the Pride flag in June, and we also participated in the Regional Pride March. Regarding the Municipal Equality Index, this is put out by the Human Rights Campaign. The city received a score of 100 this year. This is our best score. This is really a nationwide assessment on LGBTQIA+, inclusion in municipal law, policies, and services. This is just a listing of some other DEI initiatives we have. There's a lot in the report, but we're really proud of our mentorship program where we pair staff up internally to mentor them for their career development, and our career panel discussions where staff can learn the career paths of their peers. Our Human Resources Department completed a comprehensive classification study for underrepresented classifications, which is a really big deal and it's a lot of work. We advertise in a variety of locations. We prioritize diversity on panel members. All of the first interview panel members are external. And we continue to conduct blind screening on recruitment. So what that means is that the first 2 levels of review in a recruitment process, the person reviewing applications does not see anyone's name to remove any implicit bias. And then we have specific DEI questions in the interview. So one thing that we do every year is we compare who we're bringing into the organization and what our organization looks like. So this pie chart shows new hire by race ethnicity. So 42% of our new hires in 2024 were white, 58% were diverse. 2024 new hires by gender, almost 42% were male, and almost 48% were female. There was a small percentage of non-binary staff hired. Our turnover ratio in 2024 was 3%. This is the act of replacing an employee that leaves the organization with a new one. So this is a 5-year forecast of our entire organization, the diversity ratio. And as you can see, it's held very steady for the last 5 years. About 52% of the organization is male, 48% is female, and there's a very small percentage of non-binary. This chart is a 5-year snapshot of our employee diversity, so it does not include Caucasian employees. So in 2024, 46% of our workforce were non-white. This is another listing of city initiatives. I do just want to mention that the city is a part of GARE, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity organization. And then in 2025, our focus, we're going to continue staff training and development. We're going to continue with our community campaigns. The Diversity and Inclusion Commission is updating the city's code of ethics, which will come back to you. We're working on a staff-driven recruitment video website. We're going to be updating the city's website regarding the web content accessibility guidelines that's due in 2026. And all sworn police officers will participate in 8 hours of principled policing, which includes subjects such as diversity and empathy. So this is the conclusion of my report. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much for your excellent report. At this time, I'll open up public comment. Nobody has signed up to speak. I'll close public comment. Questions or comments? I'll start to the left. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you for presenting this to us. I feel like sometimes we can go on throughout our day and forget that we live in the most diverse city, one of the most diverse cities in the region. And thank you. And thank you for leading the front on our hiring practices. Melissa, we truly appreciate you. And I'm excited to see that, 46% of our staff are other than Caucasian, because it's like reflective of times, especially as of how, other jurisdictions, how they're trying to dismantle a lot of the great work and a lot of the great stuff that we're doing. So really appreciative of that.
Thank you.
We'll go to Council Member Brewer.
Thank you for this report. This is very helpful. It gives us a good snapshot of where we are as a city right now. As I say, we have as it being a bridge to yesterday's Elk Grove, to today's Elk Grove, going into tomorrow's Elk Grove. What does that look like? What do we have? Services that we offer, resources that we offer, not only to our employees, but to the public. How we can be of assistance in places where it may not be our jurisdiction, but we probably should offer our consultative services when it's needed. And the manner in which we do it from a place of caring, because we're looking out for what's best for our residents and for the city as a whole. Because obviously, the city's history, as we have our saying, but some folks have a frame of reference of where we were at one time. Some folks still believe that reputation is still here. But it's how we represent, how we show up, how we speak up for each other really plays to the bigger picture of how we can lead and move forward as a community also. This is a good way to do it, especially through the work of our council that is put together, our staff-driven council, in addition to our Diversity and Inclusion Commission as well, who, and most recently, one of our commissioners is now a member of the Elk Grove Unified School District, Delia Baldwin. So it shows that we are moving in the direction that we do have a stake as leaders in in this community, but we do it with intentionality, and we do it in the spirit of working through our partners at the school district and at the community services district to show that we are moving together in empathy, but also moving together in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. As I've long said, we are our brother and sister's keeper, and we need to do our part to be that when it's called upon. And this is a good indication of what we're doing, especially when we have partners as Circle Up Education, being there to help walk through those situations with lessons that help look at these lenses, not only with empathy, but also with a degree of intelligence and a degree of caring. So thank you so much. This is good stuff.
Thank you.
Councilmember Spies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Elk Grove, 25 years this year, right? It's going to be a great milestone for us. I think it was about maybe 8 to 10 years ago, maybe closer to 10. There was a significant effort on part of some residents to highlight the fact that our Elk Grove staff did not represent what the community was, and there were workshops and a lot of difficult conversations. I think one thing to note is that diversity in Elk Grove happened actually relatively quickly, right? Because the city grew quickly, and of course it's very difficult to maintain or to have the diversity as you have employees already who are not leaving, retiring, et cetera. I know, I'm not saying it eloquently, but the point is that I want to make is that from that time, the city has put in considerable effort to make our staff, or to have our staff more closely mirror our community, and that's been a long effort. It's one of those rocks that you move, and it keeps getting. Once you get it moving, it goes faster and faster, to a point where now you can look at it and go, wow, really done some great work over the last 8 to 10 years. And so I want to thank you for the efforts that staff, everyone has put in. It's not certainly a large part of it is human resources. But I think there's also a common understanding amongst staff and city council that diversity is a very important part of Elk Grove. And I think that we work better together when we cooperate together, when we respect each other. So I want to thank you very much. I appreciate the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent report. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are alive and well in the city of Elk Grove. We're not just reflecting these in our policies, but also our programs and the work that we do. So I want to thank you, our entire executive team, and our staff. This is important. Again, I think one of my colleagues mentioned where DEI is under attack nationwide. But having this as something that we pay close attention to, you see that in the community, you see that amongst your staff, where you are seen. It is so important when you come from another ethnic group or minority group. I remember growing up in Turlock and always feeling invisible, not a part of my community anywhere, whether it was in school or just even in the government, in all aspects of life. I'm so proud of the work that we're doing, and it's not just the city of Elk Grove, it's our partnership with the CSD and definitely with the Elk Grove Unified School District. Those kinds of initiatives continue across the board. That's how we have an impact. It's not just one government entity, it's all of them. And the work continues. We don't ever stop. So we have excellent numbers. It's great to see that our staff really is starting to look like the communities that we're representing. And that work continues. And I want to thank you for spending the time and really focusing on something like this, particularly to now more than ever, because I know that our community, our children, they're watching to see how their government, how their elected bodies react to some of the other news coming out of Washington, D.C. It's beautifully reflected right here on our dais. We have a wonderfully diverse city council. And so just proud of the work that everybody is doing and continues to do. And thank you again for this excellent report.
Thank you. If I may, I did remiss, I meant to thank Femi Omontesho, a management analyst in the city manager's office, for all of her hard work in this space and on this report. She's just a very valuable asset to the city, so I wanted to recognize her as well.
Absolutely, and thank you for that shout out for Femi. She does exceptional work. And I know also even our students recognize all of the exceptional work that you do in supporting them as well. So thank you. And with that, we will move on to our next item.
That's item 9.4, which is to receive information on the climate compass and provide direction as necessary.
Climate compass. Fans.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Carrie Whitlock, Strategic Planning and Innovation Program Manager. So this evening's Climate Compass item is a follow-on to the sessions that we did last summer. At that time, we were discussing potential strategies and actions that could be done to address the community-wide greenhouse gas emissions in Elk Grove, and we provided some various different alternative approaches. Staff heard council input at those sessions. We did further outreach, consultation with restaurants, businesses, key stakeholders. We refined the list of strategies and actions. And then we did further analysis to complete a quantification of the expected greenhouse gas emission reductions from that newly draft list of strategies and actions that we'll discuss tonight and that then are included in attachment 1 with the staff report. So this list of strategies and actions is all related to community-wide emissions. We're not discussing any this evening related to city operations and services. We have that. We're working on that further, and we will discuss that at a future city council meeting. So the intent this evening is to receive any further council input on this draft list for those community-wide emission reductions in order to finalize the draft of the Climate Compass and a subsequent EIR document that will then go out for public comment. So the expectation is still to bring those final documents for consideration before City Council in the fall. So the current cap, as you know, was adopted in February 2019. We've done a couple of updates to that based on changes to the building code. The current update we're working on is titled The Climate Compass, a plan for implementing Elk Grove's climate sustainability and resilience goals. Staff began this update process in early 2023. This document is intended, again, to be a CEQA qualified climate action plan, similar to our current cap. This provides efficiencies for new development applications, and it reduces the time and expense of preparing project-specific analysis. So in order to be that CEQA qualified document, we must include certain technical requirements. We have to include quantifying existing and forecasting greenhouse gas emissions. We did that and presented those to City Council as part of the information sessions last summer. We need to establish thresholds for greenhouse gas emissions and then specify measures and standards that would collectively achieve the target emission level, and that's what we're going to be discussing this evening. And then we also need to include a monitoring plan, which will be included with the final document. The Climate Compass is also intended to address broader climate-related issues, including adaptation. We'll have some things on resilience and our sustainability work. So as a reminder, the state has a lot of specific goals around greenhouse gas emission reductions. The most recent goal, which was adopted in 2022 with the signing of the Climate Crisis Act, set a target of carbon neutrality or net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. The California Air Resources Board then further expanded on this target in the updated scoping plan that they did in 2022, and that lays out a path for achieving that carbon neutrality goal. So the scoping plan includes reducing human-related greenhouse gas emissions to 85% below 1990 levels by 2045, and then uses carbon capture or carbon sequestration to achieve the additional 15% reduction for that net zero emission target. So also included in the scoping plan is an accelerated 2030 target. So that would be a target of 48% below 1990 levels in order to better align the trajectory to reach that 85% by 2045. And then just as a reminder, we did the presentation on our community-wide greenhouse gas emission inventory for Elk Grove back in the summer. This was done from 2021 data, and you can see that our largest emission sectors, the on-road transportation is the large blue one at the bottom that accounts for 56% of our emissions. And then building energy, the red one at the top, accounts for 38%. So those two together are 95% of the emissions for Elk Grove. And the other areas that are just over 5% of our emissions include solid waste, off-road vehicles and equipment, wastewater treatment, water supply, and agriculture. So while the state talks about the target emission reduction set to 1990 levels, emission reduction targets for Elk Grove have been set based on the 2021 greenhouse gas inventory. And this is done in line with guidance that has been put out from CARB and is done because there aren't community-wide emissions levels from 1990 for Elk Grove. We didn't actually exist as a city then. So CARB has provided guidance on how to deal with that. So setting them to our 1990 levels is accepted, and the target reduction for 2030 would then be a 39% below 2021 level, and the target reduction for 2045 is still the 85% below 1991, below 2021 levels. So in development of the draft strategies and actions that we're going to discuss this evening, we did do a lot of outreach efforts, and we got a lot of input from a wide range of individuals and organizations. Some of the key messages we heard last summer from all of you, and then from those consultations that we've done over the past several months, include focusing on those areas with the biggest emissions and the biggest impact, making sure we are minimizing unfunded mandates, working to not overly cost burden our residents, our community, particularly those who are lowest income. We heard messages about providing incentives and encouragement to change behavior rather than really prohibiting or banning things. We heard about the need to understand more about our existing buildings and have a thorough strategy to decarbonize around those. We wanted to ensure that new requirements are phased in based on availability and technology advances as well. We heard that we should ensure we're promoting and educating residents and businesses in these areas to help promote behavior change. That we need to continue working to preserve and protect our open space and our rural areas and promote nature-based solutions. And we also heard that we need to address urban heat and support improved tree canopy. So we've tried to incorporate all of that into this new list of draft strategies and actions that are included in Attachment 1. So these are organized into 6 different categories. They're grouped together primarily to provide a really clear link between with the greenhouse gas inventory sectors, so you can see a clear link with those. Based on the quantification analysis that was done, the categories that will provide the largest greenhouse gas emission reductions include building and energy and transportation. And this shouldn't be surprising because those are the 2 biggest emission sectors that we have in our inventory. So not all of the strategies that are included in the list were able to be quantified. There's a lack of data for some. There is no methodology for others. But we did include these because we think they're important in helping to provide either adaptation to support greater resilience with our community or to help as foundations to some of the other ones that were able to be quantified. In addition, many of the strategies, both ones that were quantified and those that were not, provide various co-benefits. So in addition to being reducing greenhouse gas emissions, they can be co-benefits around improving equity, decreasing air pollution, improving overall health and quality of life, enhancing infrastructure reliability, increasing community resilience, protecting natural resources, and improving economic diversity. So the strategies and actions which will have the largest impact include BE1 around electrifying and decarbonizing buildings, BE3 around increasing local renewable energy use and storage, and TR2 around increasing zero-emission vehicle adoption. So these 3 strategies make up 95% of quantified emission reductions in 2030 and 87% of the quantified emission reductions for 2045. So within the building sector strategies, the BE1 and the BE3 mentioned here, actions such as adopting a REACH code for new buildings, requiring a higher energy design rating, adopting a heat pump replacement for space conditioning with existing single-family residential, and then supporting SMUD in achievement of their 2030 zero carbon plan are all key to really achieving that 2030 reduction target. Actions such as supporting SMUD's virtual power plant program and working with SMUD to offer on-bill financing for building electrification projects are supportive actions that are seen as key to ensuring those actions are possible or are able to provide greater equity across our residents. For the 2045 reduction targets, those are reliant on actions such as developing a comprehensive building energy retrofit plan for our existing buildings, adopting a REACH code for new commercial EV charging to meet CalGreen Tier 1 or Tier 2 requirements, and adding DC fast charging capabilities at new fueling stations. So modifications of these programs could impact their feasibility, their results, or our ability to achieve the targets set. So as mentioned, we did a quantification with these strategies. So this analysis looked at what the greenhouse gas emissions will be with legislative action, what the state and the federal level has already adopted. Shown here in blue is the 2030 and 2045. It's labeled as no local action bars, so that's just legislative state and federal action. What the emission target level is here shown in red, so the 39% for 2030 and then the 85% for 2045. And then what the emissions are expected to be with the local strategies and actions that are included this evening, which are shown in shown in green. The legislative actions will make some reductions to emissions by 2030. They'll reduce emissions by about 73,000 metric tons, or about 7% of our 2021 emissions. However, to reach the target level of a 39% reduction from 2021, significant local action is still needed. So the strategies outlined in attachment 1 are expected to reduce emissions by about 41% from 2021 level, so a slightly beyond the target level. For 2045, the legislative action will make a larger impact on emission reductions, reducing emissions by almost 556,000 metric tons, or about 54% of our 2021 emissions. But again, additional local action would be needed to reach the 85% reduction target. With the local actions that are included here for 2025, they would reduce emissions by 91% from the 2021 level. So finally, just a quick wrap up. So these are the 21 different draft strategies that we have included in here across the 6 different categories. So you can see those. And then with that, I am available for any questions or to hear any council direction on this effort.
All right, thank you for that very thorough presentation. At this time, I will open up public comment. We have one person signed up to speak, Vance Gerard.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Always great to be back here. Vance Gerard with the North State Building Industry Association, representing more than 500 member companies in the home building industry. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, and I want to thank Carrie and her team for all of their hard work. Carrie has reached out to me very consistently throughout this entire process, and bless her heart, has probably had to speak to me more than she wants to. Unfortunately, we do find ourselves in a position where we cannot agree with any path that does include a REACH code for new construction. As you are aware, the state continues to adopt regulations that further dictate how new construction will contribute to the state's ambitious climate goals. These requirements already put our industry in a position where keeping up with them has become challenging and often costly. Local ordinances that dictate developers go beyond what the state requires are even more challenging. The home building industry is adapting to the shift toward electrification to the best of its ability, and that is still where the state and market are pushing us. But new obstacles continue to present themselves. The latest in those challenges includes uncertainty being created at the federal level with tariff and trade policies threatening to make the materials necessary for construction and to comply with energy standards more expensive and more scarce. Nationwide, home builders are stockpiling materials they can before the policy impacts are felt, and necessary materials like aluminum, copper, and components for electrical panels and HVAC systems become more expensive. Still, with newly constructed homes already complying with state standards and having a significantly smaller carbon footprint than existing structures, we believe the city can move forward where it can with other components of the Climate Compass and Climate Action Plan that will have a more significant impact while also not adding to the housing affordability challenges in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. I will go ahead and close public comment. Did someone submit? Okay, I thought so. Okay, I don't have the name pop up here. Can you? Okay, no worries. Yes, come on up, sir.
Thank you. Came right on time. Hello, Matthew Espona with the Associated Builders and Contractors Northern California chapter. Just wanted to express our gratitude that we were grateful to be part of the conversation. Carrie did reach out, and part of the Climate Action Plan did take our feedback in terms of renewable energy and the generators. The construction industry wanted to express the concerns that a lot of construction sites, they often do not have generators that are powered overnight. So we just wanted to express that sometimes these mandates are not feasible, and we are grateful to at least be part of the conversation. So we are supportive of being included, and we look forward to continue to work with the City of Elk Grove, and hopefully there's a roadmap how you can incorporate the business and construction contractors as part of the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will go ahead and close the public comment opportunity. And questions and comments, we'll start, where did I start last time? Okay, go ahead. Councilmember Spees.
Okay, Ms. Whitlock, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the extra effort in reaching out to stakeholders. And I noticed in the slides you also had you'd reach out to residents as well. And so, can you tell me in what ways do we reach out to residents? I think we had some workshops and things like that, right? What was?
Yeah, we also have a climate ambassadors group that we organized early on in the process of residents that we've continued to consult with. We've done additional outreach and at pop-up events and discussions with residents as we've gone along.
Awesome. Okay. And so I want to thank North State BIA and ABC NorCal. It's important that you were here, right? You showed up. You're among the very few who showed up, and I appreciate that. So can we talk about what the difference is between what the state requires and what our REACH code would do? What additional things are we trying to tag on?
So already the new 2025 building code will require heat pumps for both hot water and for space conditioning. So HVACs and hot water heaters will both be all electric heat pumps with the new 2025 building code. So what we're talking about with the REACH code is we would not actually put in place any REACH code that would say you can't do gas. That's not allowed under the Berkeley ruling. We would look and say, rather, you need to have a higher energy design rating for your residents, regardless of what fuel you include in that. And so it is just providing additional energy efficiency with new construction. So really looking at, and all of that would be adopted based on cost effectiveness. They're doing the cost effectiveness studies now, and with Sacramento, it's looking like we are one of the fortunate geographic regions within the state that it is cost effective to do all electric buildings for new residential. So that is what we would look at as we would adopt this, if we were to adopt a REACH code.
Okay. Because my biggest concern comes in the small affordability of housing, small A. And certainly understand need to, look, let me put it a different way. I think all of us can agree that we want cleaner air. Is there anybody in the room that doesn't want clean air? I don't think so. Is there anybody in the room that doesn't want clean water? Right? I don't think anybody's going to say that, right? So let's put all the other stuff aside, right? And one of the ways we can get cleaner air is by having, more effective buildings, right? But the challenge becomes when we're putting more on that adds to the continuing escalating problem of affordability of housing in California. And so maybe there's a way we can take that back, take a look at it, have other conversations, see if there's other areas that we can make up for it. But I do have a concern relative to specific, again, I want clean air, I want clean water, I also want affordability of housing. And if we keep stacking onto costs of housing, that's a concern to me. And then can you talk to me relative to the issue of the generators? What was that?
So there is and I can find the specific, one of the measures, one of the actions that we included. The writing is way too small in this. So one of the ones that we included was a measure around which one is it? So it's TR 3.2, and it says prohibiting the use of fossil fuel powered generators at construction sites on all discretionary projects. So looking at how can you use mobile battery energy storage at construction sites. What we've done with that one is we've postponed, so the timeline for that one is farther off. So we've looked at with all of these, when would we look to adopt these?
Sure.
Some of them are more in the near term, sort of between now and 2027. That one we shifted to the medium term, so sort of 28 to 31, looking at how technology advances, and then revisit that to expect to, see how that will work.
Right, okay. Because I guess one of my concerns would be if we were to, when the state does it at their level, we can debate whether the state is right or wrong about it, but when they do it at a level, we don't have an issue of Elk Grove requires electric, but the rest of the state requires, allow gas, right? And then you have a problem where folks don't want to come to Elk Grove because they only have gas generators, right? So it sounds like it's kind of taking a wait and see, so I appreciate that approach. And so we're just doing receiving direction, so I think I'm good. Thank you very much. And one last thing. One of the other things, or what did you hear from residents? What were their concerns relative to climate change, climate compass, et cetera?
So many of the residents that we have engaged with are looking for the city to take a little bit more of a proactive approach with this.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that necessarily represents all, but that's who we've heard from primarily.
Right, okay. Well, I would say most interested parties are typically going towards the side of, right? And I'm not negating it, I can understand that. So, okay, I just wanted to hear what their concerns might have been relative to it. So thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yep. Councilmember Brewer, thank you.
I think you made some really good assessments, Councilmember. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to affordability. Affordability is on the table on a lot of different ways. How we communicate with people, who we communicate, how many we communicate really matters. Because when we're talking about doing building electrification, and we're doing it for new construction, and knowing or not knowing what's going to come out of the Energy Commission that we will adopt, and then quantifying the intensity of greenhouse gas emissions. How much are we reducing and how much are we doing it by every year? Also factors into the bigger picture as well. And I think my council member to the right alluded to it, but it's there's a lot of moving pieces of furniture on the deck, because what's going on in DC is going to have a direct effect on what happens here. And we can, as a state, we can adopt so many policies, but those policies are a wraparound effect that will affect us on an everyday basis. That affects our quality of life. And as much as we want to do the right thing to meet these requirements and meet these goals because they're mandates, it's just looking at the bigger picture and seeing what can we do realistically to meet some of these goals, to address some of these burdens, especially when we're looking at electrifying decarbonized buildings, when we're looking at charging stations for electric vehicles, because we're going to do electric vehicles, we're going to do hybrids, we're going to do zero emission vehicles in some way, shape, or form, making sure we have the right capacity, the right amount of capacity, but at the same time, have the ability to afford and go into partnerships with SMUD and with some of these auto manufacturers and putting in these stations, because the materials for these are going to cost more as well. Because tariffs, if we're using these goods, if we're going from abroad to use those, to build and construct, that's going to factor into the affordability as well. So as we look at the climate compass and knowing that last year things were looking a lot different, and we were looking a little bit more, we can get there if we make these adjustments. Now we're looking to make, we have to make some choices now, not just adjustments, but choices, because if our residents, the taxpayers, if they can't pay for these, or if it's too high of an amount, we may have to do a pivot. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but that's something we have to really think about.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to say thank you for the presentation. I'm glad to see that we're still trying to move forward. And thank you for the associations for coming out and definitely speaking on behalf of your members and letting us know what roadblocks are coming up ahead. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Great presentation. I also want to recognize Vance and Matthew for your comments. I agree with many of the things that you have stated. Generally speaking, when there are mandates, then everyone's trying to play catch up and see how you can actually implement some of these mandates. And you often do have to pause and reflect on what is going to be the economic impact to everyday people. If I'm being mandated to eat organic food, but organic food costs 10 times more, I'm going to keep buying the regular food. So it's just, if you want changed behaviors, we need to see, the prices reflect some of those things. And that's just, I see that every day in my daytime job. So, I am concerned about mandates versus, these goals versus what we can do to meet and be responsible stewards of the climate. So it's a balancing act of goals versus what we can actually implement. And I really appreciate you looking and having discussions with our stakeholders, because that's how you have those balanced discussions and weighing in all of the other points of view that are necessary when it comes to public policy. You don't often see that debate take place at the state capitol, unfortunately. So it is important to have these discussions at the local level where we can see how that impacts our constituents and businesses right here at the ground level. So thank you for that. Great report. And this is not a action item, so I just will thank you, and we will go on to our next item, which is our council comments, reports, and future agenda items. I will start to the left. Vice Mayor.
I would like to start by saying that I've been voted the vice chair for the Southeast Connector.
Ooh.
So I'm excited for that. We'll be having a sewer meeting and an air quality board meeting at the end of this month.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember Brewer.
I have no items to report.
Councilmember Spies.
You and I have STA tomorrow, but other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. Had SAC-RT earlier, 2x2 with EGUSD, and STA tomorrow. So thank you. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:37. Have a good evening.